Jack Voss was not just any ordinary man. He was a rugged outdoorsman whose life revolved around the great expanse of nature. Standing tall with a sun-kissed, weathered complexion, Jack had spent countless hours hiking through dense forests, scaling rocky mountains, and camping under starlit skies. For him, the wild was more than just a backdrop. It was a sanctuary where his spirit thrived, far removed from the chaos of city life. From a young age, Jack developed an unshakable bond with the wilderness. Growing up in a small town nestled at the foot of the Appalachian Mountains, his father took him on weekend excursions into the woods, teaching him how to navigate by the stars and recognize the signs of changing weather. Those formative experiences ignited an adventurous spirit within him that never waned, whether fishing in serene lakes or navigating rugged trails. Jack embraced every opportunity to connect with nature. His love for the outdoors shaped him into a skilled survivalist, equipping him with knowledge that would serve him well on his solitary journeys. That he reveled in solitude, finding peace in the gentle rustling of leaves, the distant calls of birds, and the crispness of fresh mountain air. Each weekend was spent exploring new trails, discovering hidden waterfalls, or simply sitting quietly by a campfire beneath a blanket of stars. Nature was his playground, and he cherished every moment he spent in its embrace. However, Jack was not only defined by his competence in wilderness skills, that he was also driven by a profound curiosity about wildlife and their behaviors. A passionate photographer, he often carried a camera to capture the breathtaking beauty of flora and fauna. He would spend hours waiting patiently for a deer to appear or a hawk to soar overhead. Through his lens, he sought to convey the magic hidden in nature's intricacies. Each snapshot became a testament to his love for the wild. Despite his adventurous lifestyle, Jack had an innate respect for nature. He believed in leaving no trace behind, ensuring that his explorations would not harm the delicate ecosystems that thrived around him. Every hike began with preparation, studying maps, packing essential gear, and ensuring his equipment was sturdy and reliable. He prided himself on being self-sufficient but always mindful of the landscape that surrounded him. As summer approached, Jack felt an irresistible pull toward the expansive wilderness of Montana. The rolling hills and towering pines beckoned him for an extended solo trip, a chance to disconnect from technology and reconnect with himself. He meticulously planned his journey, packing enough supplies to last several days while leaving space for spontaneity. The idea of hiking through uncharted territory thrilled him. He envisioned evenings spent cooking over an open fire and mornings spent savoring coffee while listening to nature awaken around him. On the day of departure, the sun rose with brilliant hues of orange and pink, streaking across the sky, matching Jack's excitement as he loaded his gear into his truck. With each mile that passed, his heart raced with anticipation. He drove further from civilization until the asphalt gave way to dirt roads winding into the forest. The scenery transformed into an emerald sea of towering trees, beckoning him deeper into their realm. Parked at a scenic overlook, Jack gathered his equipment and set off down a narrow trail leading into the unknown. With each step, he embraced the thrill of adventure that lay ahead, the promise of breathtaking vistas and the serenity that only nature could provide. Little did he know that this journey would soon lead him to a fateful encounter that would change his life forever. As Jack ventured deeper into the wilderness, he felt invigorated by the solitude surrounding him. Little did he suspect that destiny had woven a surprising thread into his adventure, one that would challenge his understanding of companionship and survival itself. The sun hung high in the sky, casting a golden glow over the rugged terrain as Jack made his way deeper into the Montana wilderness. The sounds of nature surrounded him, the rustling leaves, the distant call of a hawk, and the gentle trickle of a nearby stream. With each step, he felt more invigorated, embracing the freedom that came with solitude. He carefully navigated a narrow trail that wound through towering pines. Feeling at one with the earth beneath his boots, Jack had meticulously chosen his route, but even the most experienced hikers could face unforeseen challenges. As he approached a rocky outcrop, he took a moment to admire the breathtaking view spread before him. the vast expanse of forest stretched endlessly towards the horizon, a canvas painted with shades of green and gold. It was in this moment of awe that fate intervened. As he turned to continue along the trail, his foot slipped on loose gravel hidden beneath a thick layer of pine needles. Time seemed to slow as Jack lost his footing, tumbling down the steep slope. Rocks and debris crumbled beneath him as he desperately grasped for anything to hold onto. A surge of adrenaline coursed through his veins as panic set in. He couldn't believe what was happening. With a sickening thud, Jack hit the ground hard about 15 feet below, landing awkwardly on his side. Pain exploded through his body as he tried to move, but sharp agony shot through his leg, a clear indication that something was wrong. He gritted his teeth and forced himself to assess the situation. As he lay there, breathing heavily and struggling against the pain, fear crept in like an unwelcome shadow. The forest around him felt suddenly vast and isolating. He was miles away from any sign of civilization or help. Alone and injured, Jack's heart raced as uncertainty washed over him. He attempted to sit up but quickly realized that even moving an inch sent waves of discomfort radiating throughout his body. The initial shock gave way to a chilling realization. He was stranded in the wilderness with no immediate way to seek help. He took a deep breath, grounding himself amidst the chaos in his mind. "Stay calm," he whispered to himself, recalling skills learned over years spent hiking alone. Assessing injuries was paramount. Jack gingerly inspected his leg and discovered it was twisted at an unnatural angle, likely fractured from the fall. This would not be an easy fix, with dusk approaching and shadows creeping over the landscape. Jack knew he had limited time to act before darkness enveloped him completely. He pulled out his backpack, thankfully still intact, and rummaged through its contents. For his first aid kit, after applying some makeshift bandaging to stabilize his leg, Jack contemplated his options for signaling for help while also considering how long it might take before anyone noticed he was missing. Despite being skilled in survival tactics, isolation weighed heavily on him now like never before. A wave of vulnerability rushed over him as he faced reality. No warmth from a fire or company from fellow hikers surrounded him. This time it was just him against nature's unforgiving elements. Jack leaned back against a fallen log as night began its descent upon him. A blanket of stars twinkled overhead but offered no comfort for what lay ahead. He closed his eyes briefly, focusing on steadying his breathing and keeping panic at bay. Each breath echoed in the stillness around him until another sound pierced through. Rustling leaves nearby. Instinctively alert now, Jack opened his eyes wide. What could it be? The wilderness had always been unpredictable. Perhaps it was just an animal passing by or something more ominous. The tension hung thick in the air as he braced himself for whatever might come next, unbeknownst to him that soon he would encounter something entirely unexpected that would change everything about this harrowing experience in ways he could never have imagined. The forest around Jack was shrouded in darkness, the only illumination coming from the scattered stars that twinkled in the vast expanse above. With each passing minute, the weight of his circumstances pressed down harder upon him. Pain radiated from his leg, a sharp reminder of the fall that had transformed his adventure into a desperate fight for survival. He took a deep breath, feeling the cool night air enter his lungs, yet it did little to calm the rising tide of panic threatening to overwhelm him. Jack grimaced as he adjusted his position against the fallen log. The makeshift bandaging he applied earlier provided minimal comfort. The sharp ache had quickly escalated to a throbbing pulse that echoed with every heartbeat. His mind raced as he contemplated his next move. Should he try to crawl toward the trail, or would that only worsen his injury? Torn between fear and instinct, he wrestled with the reality of his isolation. Hours stretched on, and silence enveloped him, broken only by the occasional rustle of leaves or distant animal calls. The vastness of the wilderness felt suffocating. He was miles from help, cut off from any sense of safety or familiarity. Jack's heart sank as he thought about how long it might take before anyone realized he was missing. an eternity in his mind. Remembering lessons learned from years spent hiking alone, Jack forced himself to focus on practical steps that he scanned the area for anything that might aid in signaling for help. His backpack had survived the fall, and he rummaged through it for his emergency whistle. The small device was tucked away among his gear, and relief washed over him as he held it tight, a beacon of hope in an otherwise dark situation. Taking a moment to gather himself, Jack blew into the whistle 3 sharp times, letting the sound pierce through the silence that surrounded him. Each blast echoed into the stillness, but there was no response, only the rising wind carrying whispers through the trees. The fleeting hope offered by the whistle dimmed slowly as reality set in again. He was invisible to the world outside this secluded wilderness. Pain continued to ripple through his leg as thoughts of rescue danced at the edges of his mind. What if no one came? What if help never arrived? These fears gnawed at him like a persistent shadow. He shook himself from despair and reminded himself to keep moving forward, even if just mentally. He thought about friends and family back home, their laughter, their love, and how they would want him to stay strong. In an attempt to stave off darkness both literally and figuratively, Jack began to shout intermittently for help. Is anyone out there? He called out into the void, each word feeling both brave and futile. His voice was swallowed by the night, leaving him feeling more alone than ever. Desperation clawed at him as he fought against tears threatening to spill. Hours passed with little change. Fatigue began to seep into his bones as exhaustion pulled at him like a heavy weight. He leaned back against the log once more and closed his eyes briefly, seeking solace in fleeting moments of tranquility amidst chaos. Suddenly, another noise broke through, a soft rustling nearby that sent adrenaline surging through his veins again. Jack's heart raced as he opened his eyes wide, scanning the darkness for signs of movement. Every instinct told him to prepare for anything. Wild animals could be drawn by the scent of blood or even curiosity, yet it lingered just beyond his reach, a mystery cloaked in shadows. Who's there? He managed to call out again, voice hoarse but firm against encroaching fear. The silence deepened once more, holding its breath as if waiting for what? Little did Jack know that this moment would lead to an encounter far beyond his imagination, a twist of fate that would challenge everything he thought he knew about survival in the wild and companionship itself. The silence of the night was suddenly disrupted by soft rustling in the underbrush nearby, a sound that sent an electric shock of alertness through Jack's weary body. His heart raced as he turned toward the source, every instinct screaming at him to prepare for whatever might emerge from the shadows. He squinted into the darkness, straining to discern any telltale sign of movement. Then, from behind a thick thicket of brambles, a curious bear lumbered into view. Jack's breath caught in his throat. The bear, a medium-sized black bear with a shiny coat that glimmered in the moonlight, sniffed the air cautiously as it stepped closer. It was clear from its posture that it wasn't on the hunt, rather, it appeared inquisitive and unthreatened by Jack's presence. Time seemed to slow as the animal ambled forward, its nose twitching in search of food. For a fleeting moment, Jack felt a wave of fascination wash over him. This was one of nature's magnificent creatures in its natural habitat. His love for wildlife had often drawn him to observe animals from a distance, but never had he imagined facing one so closely under such dire circumstances. Yet with that fascination came an undercurrent of fear. Bears were unpredictable. Could this one turn aggressive? Would it see him as an easy target or simply as a curiosity? As the bear neared, Jack held his breath and remained very still. He carefully shifted his weight to balance against the log behind him without attracting attention. The pain in his leg momentarily faded as adrenaline rushed through his system, his focus entirely on the creature before him. The bear paused just a few feet away, inspecting its surroundings with keen interest. Jack could hear the soft crunch of leaves beneath the bear's paws and see its dark eyes glinting in the pale light of the stars above. Just stay calm, he whispered softly under his breath, fighting to keep himself steady amid conflicting emotions. The bear seemed more interested in exploring than causing harm. It moved closer to Jack's backpack, drawn by the smell of food stored within. Jack's mind raced. His supplies, the thought of losing them stirred anxiety within him. But he quickly realized that confronting the bear would only escalate an already volatile situation. Instead, he remained where he was, silently observing as the curious creature nosed through his backpack. To Jack's surprise, rather than tearing into it or causing chaos, the bear gently nudged at his gear with cautious curiosity. It sniffed around for any remnants of snacks or traces left behind from previous meals. Jack couldn't help but feel an odd sense of camaraderie with this inquisitive creature. Both were trying to navigate their own challenging situations. Time passed slowly as Jack settled into this strange encounter, an unexpected companion in an isolated setting. He couldn't deny that part of him felt comforted by this gentle giant's presence amidst overwhelming loneliness and pain. Here was life thriving against odds in a shared wilderness space, a bond formed under extraordinary circumstances. The bear eventually moved away from Jack's bag and wandered off slowly into the depths of the pines. As it vanished beyond reach, Jack felt an acute sense of loss wash over him. He hadn't expected this brief connection but had found solace in it nonetheless. However quickly these thoughts faded when reality set back in. He was alone once more and still injured on a remote mountain trail without help. But now something had shifted within him, a tiny spark ignited by this unexpected meeting with nature's wild spirit. Through uncertain breaths and ache-riddled limbs, Jack resolved to maintain hope. Perhaps even amidst despair and darkness lay potential for strange alliances and unforeseen kindness just waiting to emerge from hidden shadows, a lesson he would come to understand fully as night wore on and further encounters lingered on the horizon. As the night wore on, Jack found himself enveloped in both darkness and a growing sense of uncertainty about what lay ahead. Physically weak and emotionally drained, he shifted his weight carefully against the log that had become his unexpected support. The rustle of leaves and the faint echo of nocturnal creatures became familiar sounds of his new reality, yet, each moment was tinged with a spectrum of emotions. Fear, hope, and an unexpected intrigue stirred deep within him. To his astonishment, the bear returned the next evening, drawn once again to the scents emanating from Jack's backpack. This time, as Jack watched the bear approach, he felt not only curiosity but also a surprising sense of companionship blossoming within him. The animal's gait was calm and unhurried. It inspected the area with cautious interest, its black eyes glowing softly in the moonlight. Jack couldn't shake off the realization that perhaps this bear was not a threat but a fellow wanderer in this vast wilderness. Jack chuckled lightly at himself as he observed the bear's antics. A seemingly playful creature exploring the unfamiliar. He remained still, a silent spectator to this wild life unfurling before him. The bear nudged Jack's gear with its nose, moving items around in search of food like a child rummaging through a toy box. Instead of feeling anxious or defensive, Jack found that he was captivated by the bear's innocent curiosity. With each encounter, Jack began to notice subtle behaviors that fascinated him. The bear would occasionally glance over at him as if seeking acknowledgement or sharing an understanding of their respective predicaments. Jack felt a sense of relief wash over him. With each shared moment, barriers were breaking down, an unspoken bond forming between man and beast. As days passed and Jack's pain became a constant companion, the bear arrived with more regularity. It showed an almost uncanny ability to sense when Jack felt most vulnerable. Whenever Jack struggled to reposition himself or shifted uncomfortably due to pain, the bear would linger nearby, offering quiet company that eased the tension in Jack's heart. On one particularly hard evening, while Jack winced through waves of pain cascading from his leg, he noticed the bear sitting just a few feet away, observing him intently. its head cocked slightly to one side. The creature watched Jack as if trying to understand his suffering. In that moment, something shifted within Jack. An overwhelming sense of kinship blossomed that encompassed their shared solitude and struggles in this relentless wilderness. Jack reached out tentatively from his resting position, his fingers brushing against the edge of his backpack where some trail mix lay untouched. In that instance, he decided to offer a small treat. He gently tossed a few pieces toward the bear, watching as it sniffed curiously before munching on the snacks. The simplicity of sharing food, a universal act of bonding, felt monumental to Jack. It marked a pivotal shift from fear into acceptance of his compassionate companion. Over time, those tiny moments offered moments of reprieve from isolation and despair. The forest became less intimidating. It became home. Dialogue developed without words, an intimate understanding forged through raw experience that transcended speech. There was laughter embodied in playful interactions. Whenever Jack emptied out the remnants of snacks or adjusted his make-do bandages, the bear would hop a little too close for comfort but never aggressive or assertive. As twilight faded into stars once more overhead, Jack closed his eyes against the gentle sounds of brush moving in playfully among twinkling constellations above them. It dawned on him that nature had not only cast an unforgiving shadow upon his journey but also orchestrated an alliance displayed through grace he'd never imagined. What had begun as fear morphed into genuine connection, a mutual respect between man and bear evolving beautifully in the expanse of the Montana wilderness. Jack realized that perhaps it wasn't about survival alone. Sometimes bonds formed in the most unexpected places were what kept one's spirit alive even in the darkest moments, offering light amid shadow and companionship in solitude's embrace. As the days blended into nights, Jack's bond with the bear deepened, bringing an unexpected twist to his dire situation. It was more than just companionship. The bear became a surprising source of assistance that Jack hadn't anticipated. Each visit brought new experiences and moments of wonder that lifted his spirits amidst overwhelming uncertainty. One morning, the sun peeked through the branches overhead, casting dappled shadows on the forest floor. Jack awoke to find the bear sitting nearby, quietly observing him with an attentive gaze. This time, however, it cradled something in its mouth. As it approached, Jack widened his eyes in astonishment. The bear dropped a handful of wild blueberries at his feet. The bursting sweetness of the berries captured Jack's attention as he looked up at the creature in disbelief. "Thanks for breakfast," he murmured, feeling an overwhelming sense of gratitude wash over him. The bear merely snorted softly and settled back onto its haunches as if pleased to contribute to their shared existence. Jack savored each bite he could manage. It was more than food, it was a reminder that connection often transcended human understanding. The joy didn't stop there. Each encounter became an opportunity for further sustenance. Several evenings later, as dusk crawled over the horizon painting the sky in shades of violet and gold, Jack watched as his furry companion emerged from the underbrush again. It carried a fish, gleaming and fresh, between its jaws. The bear set it down just beyond where Jack lay and nuzzled it toward him with patience. At first hesitant, Jack couldn't believe his luck with what felt like a primal gift from nature itself. The kind of cooperation that made ventured fears inconsequential. He marveled at how instinctive survival could foster such strange partnerships among species, and acceptance washed over him once again. As those days passed and turned into weeks, moments infused with laughter-filled exchanges took root between man and beast. Jack gradually grew reliant on this unusual source of assistance. One particularly chilly night when biting winds swept through the trees, sending tremors through his injured body, he huddled closer to the log for warmth. Out of nowhere, he felt something heavy settle beside him. The bear had taken its place near him as if guarding against cold or treachery alike. The warmth radiating from the creature enveloped him like a blanket, easing ache and anxiety alike as they shared their space under starry skies together. In this enforced proximity came comfort, knowing someone else was there tugged at hope's threads connecting them both heart and soul in ways he had never fathomed. But even amid those quiet encounters emerged incidents where danger lurked just beneath tranquility's surface. Nighttime rustlings provided stark reminders that nature had other inhabitants far less friendly than his newfound friend. The specter of wolves prowling nearby one evening sparked primal instincts within Jack as uneasy anticipation crept along his spine. It wasn't long before their presence became evident. A low growl echoed ominously from the darkened edge of trees surrounding them. He held his breath out of instinct. Something inside told him that fear wasn't merely a solitary curse but rather a condition shared. Amid this wild tapestry woven around them both, caught unprepared now for perhaps violent confrontation, Jack glared nervously into darkness until suddenly the bear sprang up, eyes wide with intention, and charged toward where sounds echoed from behind bushes choking with shadows. The sight unfurled within Jack's chest. Courage teemed with wonderment. In mere moments this companion transformed from gentle friend into protector while imposing itself boldly amid those lurking threats. A startled yelp rippled through close thickets as whatever dwelled unseen fled into shifting night, not wanting any part in trivial mischief, preferring instead ambivalence juxtaposed against larger beings standing watch over frail lives like little threads caught dancing amid great schemes happening. Brief encounters around both lives immeasurable on marble scales registering through time, immortalized by tenderness accompanying flesh, navigating an expanse bigger than either could warrant. Perceivable. In all these unexpected ways, the guidance gifted bringing support, denying clarity, twisted by desperation, affirmed within small hands, extending feebly supporting fabric, unbroken, forged symbiotically between them. Jack learned how truly powerful exists alongside companionship, authenticity bred beneath timorous breaths, rattling mixed realms met on adventure, unplanned redistributing benefits crossing despite uncertainties, layered thick unearned. As the days turned into a rhythm of shared existence, Jack began to observe the bear more closely, discovering that his companion was not just a source of comfort but also an unintentional mentor in survival. While initially focused on his own plight, Jack found himself captivated by the bear's natural instincts and behaviors, realizing he could learn invaluable survival skills from this formidable creature. One day, as they lay side by side under the sprawling canopy of stars, Jack watched intently as the bear foraged nearby. The animal moved gracefully through the underbrush, sniffing at various plants and digging with its powerful claws. Each careful motion seemed deliberate, almost like a dance. Jack marveled at how the bear would pause occasionally, testing the air for scents that might indicate food sources hidden beneath layers of leaves or soil. In quiet fascination, Jack observed how the bear dug up wild roots and nibbled at them with apparent delight. It was a reminder of how resilient nature could be, something Jack had always respected but hadn't fully appreciated until now. Inspired by his companion's actions, he decided to explore the area himself whenever the bear wandered off in search of morsels. During one such expedition, Jack found patches of wild carrots peeking out from the earth and clusters of edible mushrooms hidden among the rocks. Watching the bear adapt to various food sources throughout their encounters reminded him that survival required creativity and resourcefulness. He filled his own makeshift pouch with some gathered greens while feeling renewed purpose give rise within him. It wasn't just about food. Jack learned safety lessons too. The bear seemed acutely aware of its surroundings, reacting instinctively to even minor disturbances in the wilderness, an important trait that Jack trained himself to emulate. Whenever they were settled, he began to mirror the bear's relaxed alertness, paying attention to sounds in the forest that he'd previously overlooked. Instead of succumbing to isolation's weight pressing down on him, He took active steps toward engaging with his environment. Jack noticed how the bear would sometimes stomp its feet or let out low growls when faced with intrusions. These vocalizations served as signals that resonated deep within him despite being an entirely different language. They indicated both a protective nature and a command intended to ward off potential threats. He'd never consider shouting like that on his own before, breathlessly shaking fists at phantom dangers had been unthinkable, but through this bond with the bear blossoming across helplessness grew newfound assertiveness. When twilight shadows creeped ominously near, signaling shifting rivals seeking advantage over tranquility shared among leafy surroundings, he thought less about fleeing and more about standing guard in alliance alongside an unexpected friend while maintaining vigilance together. Nights became lessons. Another layer unfolded each time wolf howls echoed from beyond. Comfort's embrace. One evening when wolves were particularly close and threats loomed large, Jack felt fear grip him anew as whispers of survival clawed relentlessly at his mind's edges, faced with uncertainty where visible presence took shape like phantoms dancing behind leaves. However, right beside remained steadfast courage embodied within furred companionship, muffled sounds dropping shyly into darkness, hiding hearts racing amid primal instincts battling against depths wrestled before. Huddling entrustingly alongside his counterpart, he instinctively mirrored movements no longer rigidly human, breathing synchronized harmoniously while understanding that camaraderie forged stronger than mere chance found itself shaped adventurously among two species learning together, redistributing purpose encased within profoundly ordinary experience too fragile. Yet organisms distinguished, surviving life emboldening radiant connections greater beyond adversity endured collectively within restrictions confined by elements unfurling time eternal cradled between celestial bodies above. Days passed slowly but purposefully as new wisdom unfolded from moments spent watching intuitive displays intertwined intimately beneath tree branches gracefully architected, holding wind whispers speeding toward horizon smothering quick while vast have fallen unimaginable threads binding opposites. The challenge laid open through cooperation, navigating feeding myriad experiences, traversing trails. Giving miniature gifts glittered, appearing with bare hands reaching out toward every kindness should exist freely while allowing tenderness weaving inside, enfolding present ahead, crossing unseen pathways, gracing all dwellers alive beneath sunlit skies, brushing gently against heartbeats equally driven, merging freely established alongside returning sense. Faith burned brightly against heavy breaths, punctuating life untamed, captured shimmering realities, reflected vulnerably each lesson gifted. Recognized bore fruit, burgeoning strength discovered unexpectedly marked, yielding deeper truth lived, enlightening adventure endlessly unfolding, jogging moments overlooked, beauty once lost illuminated warmly afresh. As Jack settled into a new routine with the bear by his side, his thoughts frequently drifted to home and the urgency of finding a way back. Days had turned into a blur of survival, but now they were intertwined with determination. Jack resolved to devise a plan for signaling for help. The longer he stayed in the wilderness, the more he felt the weight of isolation press upon him, igniting a fire within to escape these confines. One morning, seated on a mossy log as soft sunlight filtered through the leaves above, Jack contemplated the various methods he could use to attract attention. He knew that shouting and blowing his whistle had been futile. Instead, he needed something more visual and impactful. His gaze drifted to the clearing where he'd previously arranged fallen branches and stones, a makeshift SOS signal crafted during earlier moments filled with despair. With renewed motivation, Jack stood and began to gather materials once more. This time, he envisioned creating two distinct signals, one that would employ smoke during daylight hours and another that would produce bright flashes at night. Every piece of fallen wood he collected fed into this hopeful idea, while he continuously felt the reassuring presence of his bear companion nearby. Jack set about constructing his signal fire. He carefully piled dry twigs and leaves together in the clearing while keeping an eye on his furry ally. The bear instinctively sensed Jack's rising resolve and seemed to share in it, standing guard over the gathering supplies as if aware of their significance. Their bond deepened further during these shared moments. Jack felt bolstered by his companion's unwavering support. Knowing smoke signals would go further than just sound, Jack focused on finding an open space where it wouldn't be camouflaged against the trees. That he located a small clearing a short distance from where he'd made his camp, the perfect spot for visibility from above should an aircraft pass overhead. As dusk twilight-woven darkness began its descent each evening, Jack would set small fires using the gathered materials arranged in strategic piles near the clearing's edge. Tending to them was laborious yet liberating, simultaneously giving him purpose among wilderness forces surrounding him unknowingly bustling about, alive intentionally above. Marks grazed across this mist network held deep within, hands readied, yearning near another. Noticed multitude-shaped fleeting slips beneath stars. Watching reflected lives taking rhythm, raised wings spun swirling from dusty hands unencumbered, steadily cradling alleys beckoning toward suns risen beyond, lost grasp falling like autumn seeds refracted, glowing resplendently upward, bursting bright invocations between implements crafted, gathering warmth, caught shared glances hopeful, eventually mounting toward seen roads drawn before forged sights, reaching full-hearted connections twinkling beyond. Dressed yet awaiting, uplifted onward, dreaming brightly, eventually awaiting again, since soaring past without expectation, monumentally embraced by adventures bound forth, escaping surrender, boldly transforming wonder invoked, onward thrusts emerging, impending journeys revisited, blended within, thereupon paths rumored across canvases, trailing dust giving chase, unwrapped relinquished, tight intertwined, ventured forth, strength returned, humbly sprawled out, bright healing triumphs imagined, openly given, new truths carried briskly, then patched. Closing swept away, intrinsic gently absorbed, crafting ever-changing intimacies, delivered remixed melodies, unencumbered days crossing ahead, steady tickling, delicate intentions breathlessly met, minute marking discovery, casting currents gracious enclosing, abundantly gentle nature dancing, aligned guiding energies pushing, softly breathing transitions often uncertain, illuminated emerging, alive painting vibrantly colored winds. Loyal witnessing, crescendoing blooms together weaved, undoubtedly marking new lives bound across thresholds, meticulously traversing uncharted territories, sculpted from gathered echoes, enduring warmly receptive foreign tapestries, existing unheard aloud, reiteratively amplified, felt gained, sought, full surged, ingrained, resilient, holding truths, threading eludes, embraced, proving destined towards safety, hug, ventured, simplicity providing touches, born, nestling, bringing anomalies, bundling, heartfelt expanses. Unified, exploring, never doubted, returning altogether, finely stitched. Prepared, punishing bounds, comforting features drawn, intricately buoyed, composed, discovering companionship, driving aspirations, remaining forever within, shimmering, steadied shores, endeavoring, reached, felt together, entwined, quiet, abiding, woven, assured, brilliantly aiming, widening, stretching, doubt, tomorrow, spanning landscapes, expanding, unwavering, taught, nearing, affection, witnessed, connection, fueled, grateful memories, previously preserved, striven, waiting, ensuring, clasped, alive. After several long days, filled with diligence, sweat creasing brow, pulsing potent hopes twirling through, restored energy harnessed, ignited, vibrated blissfully amidst dynamic internal ruptures, fluctuations, releasing, growing, once invited attachments forged beside trails, both marked, lessons whispered, increasingly exploring, nurturing, comfort gathering toward fullness, gratified, visibility soared, awaiting, sparks endlessly beckoning, radiating, inviting, dreams approaching, finally blending, adventures marked, harmonized. Together, the distant sound of helicopter blades grew closer, and Jack Voss could feel his heart pounding in sync with the rhythm of hope surging through him. Rescuers were near, he just had to make sure they could find him. The thrill of anticipation was tinged with an undercurrent of fear. What if he failed to signal them? What if this opportunity slipped away? Jack took a moment to compose himself as he leaned against a sturdy tree trunk, his injured leg throbbing beneath him. He thought of the lessons learned during his time with the bear, patience, observation, and adaptability. Now, he sought to harness that knowledge to ensure his rescue. He quickly set to work on his signaling methods. The smoke signal from earlier still lingered in his mind, but it was time to elevate his efforts that he rummaged through the remains of past fires, reassessing how he could optimize visibility. Jack recalled how the bear had approached its meals, slowly, thoughtfully, how it chose spots where food sources would be plentiful but also highly visible from afar. Driven by instinct and urgency, he decided on a multifaceted approach, creating smoke signals during the day while placing reflective materials around his camp to catch light at night. He meticulously gathered dry leaves and twigs once more and arranged them in an open area, prepared for another fire, but this time with intent and foresight. As Jack worked tirelessly under the warm sun, weaving together branches and leaves into a rough pyramid shape, fear clawed at him intermittently like a lingering shadow. Would the helicopters pass too high overhead without seeing him? Would they navigate away from this stretch of wilderness altogether? He quelled those thoughts with swift resolve and focused on the task at hand. Once satisfied with his fire arrangement, he set it ablaze again. Thick black smoke billowed upward, coiling into the sky above like an eager beckoning arm reaching out for salvation. Jack stood back to watch for any signs of movement over the treetops while maintaining vigilance regarding sound surrounding him, reminded yet comforted by how observant the bear had been during their time together. Breathlessly hopeful now, he transitioned between bursts of effort tending to the fire while also using his whistle intermittently, to ensure blending fragrances alongside auditory signals would bolster resultant reach wider than before. "I'm here, help, please," Jack shouted desperately into the wind as he leaned forward between waves slicing through gentle trees, his voice reverberating within dense foliage surrounding him. Moments passed slowly like hours. Each second felt amplified against the silence, drowning fears deep down fought, holding steady, uplifted, soaring dreams sparkling between breaths drawn audibly together, charged elevated moments building, awaiting soaring echoes, revealing beyond meandering passages, converging colorful identities revealed. Pulsating, amplifying, wildly met, tenuously overlapping, newly belated bonds coaxing forth easily feasted comfort beyond surfacing chirp, tenant reassuring reassurance found, anchored grounding fortitudes merging boldly, reaching challenged intimately, burgeoning glimmers deserving accomplishment, all-rounded turned closing, embracing victories honored, vividly promising known spaces driven, returned welcomed, embrace seized hastily, unfurling abundance. Each stroke met forth knitted waves finding lush shoots blooming toward togetherness, counted sparkled connected, announcing interconnected outlines, breaking shared horizons, inviting solid depths, awaiting horizons long patiently begged. Then, just as doubt began its encroaching creep again through clenched fists, trembling mounted legs staggered beneath limits proving temptation born, witnessed afar radiant figures orchestrating grand movements rising within depthless obedience, captured seen hands twitching giddily absorbing realigned triumphs. Blossoming years gathered witnessing simultaneously. Yes, out above came wide-eyed fractionally imagined silhouettes blurred resiliently marking forth. The helicopters hovered nearer now. Jack felt relief wash over him along waves swept keen, awakening, stitching individually, mingling rippling threads, drawing connections stamped forever, raised harmony mingled consistently promising victory, clear pulsing memories echoed harmoniously yet viewed vivaciously, pressed respectful could pressing twined warm expanse undefeated, beckoning amidst beams fanned, uniting joined, explored, alive, gathered, thrumming hearts ignited, vivid promises finally emerging, treasured, repaying undeterred aspirations incurred, manifesting, cherished, reunited flesh, ascending bonds, drawing circles, content deepening, profound forgiveness found, journeys entwined, entirely built, joyously rediscovered, finding eternities healing, expansive, nurtured, graced, lifting us gently, reaching, rallying strength, knowing together, beckoning, touching. Held, Jack's heart raced as he waved frantically towards the approaching aircraft. Their powerful engines resonated, respect filling skies where roots once grown, blended open landscapes, nourishing light directed toward purpose, intimate woven collectively, suddenly shared, return safely. The shadows loomed close, bearing witness, now shifted brightly, marking freshly sought companionship, leading home, beautifully woven together, laden, bearing, finally rewarded amongst unforeseen births, warranting miracles. Traveling strong, untamed, wild, shining, ever lived, eternally flourishing, glimpses victorious, assuring, tenderly stretching, unity ushering forward, future's embrace. As the roar of helicopter blades filled the air, Jack felt the weight of anticipation wash over him like a wave. His heart raced as he waved frantically, straining to make himself visible against the backdrop of towering pines and lush foliage. The adrenaline surged through his veins, mingling with relief as he thought of finally escaping. The isolation that had become his daily reality, moments felt like eternities as the helicopter hovered above, scanning the ground for any signs of life. Then, just when Jack thought his heart might burst from hope and fear combined, a figure descended from the chopper, harnessed in gear that reflected professionalism and urgency. It was a rescue team member, his face obscured by a helmet but his body language exuding determination. "Over here!" Jack shouted, his voice raw yet filled with desperation. He pointed toward the smoke still curling upward from his fire pit and gestured wildly with both arms. The rescuer caught sight of him and quickly relayed signals back to the helicopter before making his way towards Jack. When they reached him, Jack was overwhelmed by emotion. A surge of gratitude and disbelief washed over him as they approached. "I thought I'd never be found," he exclaimed, tears welling in his eyes. The rescuer knelt beside him, assessing Jack's injuries while offering reassuring words. He wanted to ensure Jack that help had come in time. Jack felt an unexpected current of warmth flood through him at those words. Hope wasn't just a flicker anymore, it blazed brightly now amid the shadows that had lingered in his heart for so long. As more team members arrived to assist him, he was enveloped in a sense of safety he hadn't experienced since the day of his accident. Once they evaluated his leg and provided first aid, Jack's mind raced back to everything that had occurred during his time in the wilderness, the bonds formed, lessons learned from observing the bear, and moments shared amidst uncertainty. He realized how profoundly this experience had changed him. Nature had opened its arms wide and welcomed him into its embrace, teaching him invaluable lessons about resilience, adaptability, and companionship that transcended species. As he was hoisted into a stretcher for transport, Jack glanced back at the forest from which he'd come, a vast tapestry woven with memories of survival alongside an unexpected ally. There was sorrow mixed with gratitude as he thought about leaving behind this part of himself, but more than that, an appreciation for how it had transformed him. The bear had not just been a companion, it represented an unyielding spirit thriving against odds in an unpredictable world. A reflection of survival itself. The helicopter lifted off into the sky, soaring high above valleys and peaks, painted with sunlight illuminating glimpses of life stirring below. It felt surreal to be leaving it all behind, yet exhilaratingly free. The whirring blades cut through air sharply while echoes danced vibrantly across overarching ranges far beneath. Reaching heights previously untouched glistened, exhilarated, renewed strength, awakening laughter spilling forth full-heartedly, cascading infinitely, unremarkably connected, vividly beckoning, bright futures welcoming, paths unforeseen ahead intertwining. Warmth longingly returning, bundled cherished ties drawn together, extending trust held firm, gently carried forth, lightly wrapped dreams shining anew, urging purpose met expansively, greeting freely. Homes waited patiently beyond hills rising gently, as they flew toward civilization, a place where human contact awaited. Jack's thoughts turned reflective. He would carry these lessons forward into every ensuing chapter ahead, embracing nature with new respect, understanding forged genuinely, living deeper. Timeless connections binding warmly, more than mere survival tucked within, soulful cravings blossomed, lasting friendships shine ever brighter. the journey endured, embedding footprints safely traced, leading onward, ever resilient lives nested soulfully entwined, guiding gently home, blossoming. As Jack Vost settled into the comforting embrace of civilization, he found himself reflecting deeply on the journey he had just endured and the bond he forged with the bear during his time in the wilderness. The helicopter ride home, once filled with anxiety and fear, transformed into a moment of profound introspection that he gazed out at the sprawling landscapes below, now familiar yet tinged with the memories of solitude and struggle. The companionship he had developed with the bear was not just a survival tactic but a testament to the unexpected connections that can form in times of hardship. It had started from a place of fear, a visceral instinct to protect himself when faced with an animal that could easily have been a predator, yet, as days turned into weeks, that fear evolved into admiration and respect. Jack realized that this bear had become his teacher, offering him lessons in resilience, patience, and adaptability. Jack's thoughts drifted back to moments shared beneath the vast canopy of stars. How the bear would approach him cautiously at first but gradually became more comfortable in his presence. He remembered how it would nuzzle against him for warmth during cold nights or bring him food when hunger gnawed at his insides. Each interaction deepened their bond, reinforcing a sense of trust that transcended species barriers. Suddenly, they were not just man and beast, they were companions navigating the wild together. In those lonely days spent in nature's embrace, Jack learned that true companionship often comes from unexpected places. The bear had shown him what it meant to be present, to live in the moment without judgment or expectation. It taught him how to observe carefully, an essential skill for survival that went beyond mere physicality. It connected him deeply to the rhythms of life around him. As Jack's journey drew to a close and he prepared to re-enter society, he made a silent promise to himself. He would carry these lessons forward. He felt an overwhelming urge to advocate for wildlife conservation, an appreciation for the delicate balance between humans and nature that so many overlooked. This experience had transformed him. It shifted his perspective on survival from one focused solely on self-preservation to one rooted in mutual respect and understanding. He thought about how often people viewed nature through a lens of fear or domination, forgetting that it was also capable of nurturing profound relationships. Jack knew he would never look at wildlife in the same way again. Every encounter would be tinged with gratitude for the lessons learned during his ordeal. The bear had illuminated paths within him he never knew existed, paths towards empathy for all living beings striving for existence. As civilization drew near, Jack felt a bittersweet ache settle within his chest, his heart heavy yet light as well. He left behind not only a cherished companion but also an indelible part of himself shaped by moments spent alongside this magnificent creature. Their time together etched itself onto his spirit like markings on tree bark, reminding him always of what could be achieved through connection, bravery, and shared experiences. Jack vowed to honor the legacy of their bond by sharing his story, the lessons learned from his time with the bear, and advocating for respect towards wildlife in all its forms. He envisioned speaking in schools or community centers about coexistence and compassion for nature. He wanted others to understand that friendship could bridge even the widest gaps between species. As he stepped off the helicopter onto solid ground once more, embracing friends and family who rushed toward him with relief painted across their faces, Jack carried with him more than just memories. He bore wisdom gained from trials faced alone yet met alongside an unexpected ally, a bear whose spirit lived on within him, eternally guiding forth toward brighter horizons ahead. As Jack Voss stepped back into the familiar embrace of civilization, he felt like a different person than the one who had embarked on his solo journey into the wilderness. The experiences he endured, particularly the bond he forged with the bear, had transformed his perspective on life, companionship, and the unpredictable nature of existence. Each moment spent alongside that gentle creature taught him valuable lessons about resilience and the importance of embracing life's uncertainties. In the days following his rescue, Jack reflected often on how easily life could shift from the mundane to the extraordinary. One moment he was hiking along a picturesque trail, excited for adventure. The next, he found himself grappling with pain and isolation in an unforgiving wilderness. It was within that adversity that he discovered something beautiful, the profound connections that can arise even in the most unexpected circumstances. Revisiting memories of his time with the bear brought warmth to his heart. The animal had entered his life when he felt most vulnerable, offering companionship when he needed it most. Their interactions were a reminder that connection could flourish across species barriers and that empathy is a universal language. He recalled the bear's gentle presence as it shared its warmth during cold nights and provided food when hunger gnawed at him, revealing a level of instinctual understanding that transcended mere survival. Jack knew he would advocate for wildlife conservation, not just because of his bond with the bear but because he realized how essential these creatures were to the intricate tapestry of life on Earth. He was now equipped with a deeper understanding of coexistence. Humans often forget that they are just one thread in a much larger story woven by nature. With each step he took back into society, Jack felt an obligation to share these insights, to encourage others to recognize and respect wildlife rather than fear it. He envisioned speaking in schools and community centers about his experience, emphasizing themes of friendship forged through adversity and resilience found in unlikely alliances. He wanted to inspire others to approach nature not with trepidation but with wonder and curiosity, understanding that unpredictable moments can lead to the most meaningful experiences. Jack believed that if more people embraced this mindset, they could cultivate a greater appreciation for the world around them. The world felt different now. Even mundane tasks resonated with a newfound sense of gratitude. Every tree he passed on his walk home seemed more vibrant, every breeze more refreshing. He realized that life's unpredictability should not be feared but embraced as an opportunity for growth and connection. Jack was determined to live boldly, engaging fully with each moment as it presented itself. As he settled back into his daily routine, Jack carried the spirit of the bear with him, a steady reminder of strength in vulnerability and the beauty of companionship forged in difficult times. He understood that true friendship can come from unexpected places and that every creature has its own story to tell. Looking back over the journey he had undertaken, both physically and emotionally, Jack accepted that life would always be an intricate dance between uncertainty and possibility. He resolved to approach each day with openness, recognizing that even amidst challenges lie opportunities for profound connections waiting to unfold. With this mindset, Jack stepped forward into his new chapter, one filled with purpose, inspired by lessons learned in the wild, a journey illuminated by companionship, respect for nature, and an unwavering belief in the power of human connection amid life's unpredictability.